Good morning, Sandrine. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I was reading your article, Reconnecting to Spirit, and I found it very timely for me. And I would love to be able to ask you some questions about it from your point of view.
Sure.
I don't want to mix my point of view in with that just yet.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, the first question I have is, what was going on in your life at the time that you wrote that article?
I think I wrote the article when I realized that my relationship with quote-unquote spirit had changed. I think for the longest time, well, when I started my practice, I didn't even really believe in any higher power, or it's not that I didn't believe. I guess I believed in it, but I was pretty mad at it. I thought that, as far as I don't know, as far as I was concerned, I never got, any kind of support from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was angry. I was angry. I thought, if there's someone out there where, it's not looking out for me, and I was pretty angry. But when I started my practice, I guess the one thing that I wanted the most was to be able to connect with my intuition, because I've realized that I was fairly intuitive and I could maybe not make decisions better, but I could follow a different route if I trusted my intuition a little more. So I started with that, with the idea that I started studying with the idea that I was trying to get a stronger sense of intuition. And over time and over different type of practice and with meditation and meditating every day, and I guess what I've realized is that what I called intuition was an inner guidance. And over time, I think I kind of labeled it as spirit, but I think you can call it whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. It's just that sense of inner guidance that we all have and we all have access to. And when I got to that realization, it was time to write the article. I thought, well, now that you get it, you have to write about it.
Yeah, I know that feeling. So you mentioned that you can call it whatever you want. So some people actually label it God. Some people say the universe. Some people say the divine. Some people refer to it as a spiritual awakening or awareness. In your article, you use divine. And I'm wondering, what does the divine mean for you?
I think for me, the divine, I think, is the most neutral term that I could use, if that makes sense. I think at this point in my life, it doesn't matter what it's called, whether I'm comfortable with people calling it Jesus or God, or it doesn't really matter to me at this point. I know it's one and the same. And having a connection with it, staying in contact, quote unquote, because it's not like a pick up the phone and chat, but it's still a form of contact, just seeking its contact every day through meditation and other practice. It's changed me, and it's accelerating my learning too at the same time, because I use this connection to deepen my learning and my teachings. So it's something that I've come to rely on, that I nurture. It's something that it's starting to, for the past few years, it's showing me the way. It's showing me, it's like it's unrolling the carpet, under my feet, and it's showing me what works best for me, and it's showing me all the things that I should be learning. I don't know, it's just unveiling the way for me, and so I'm faithful to that connection. I try my best to, it's not even that I try my best anymore, it's become, just part of my life. I stay connected. And when I drift away sometimes, I just go back to it, because it's become a safe refuge, so sort of.
Do you have any specific examples of something where connecting to your intuition the way you have been trying to do and relying on this divine presence or sense of self, where it helped you, whereas before you knew that when you were disconnected, you were lost? Do you have any example of how you prove to yourself that this is working?
I think it's not so much approving. It becomes, there comes a point where it integrates into your life. So instead of having, the constant ranting in my head, my own voice or ego just going off about whatever, that has, stopped mainly. I mean, a little bit once in a while, but it's not very often. And it's showing me things that I would not pay attention to. I would not have been paying attention to. For example, when I first started, I was really reactive, and part of my practice was asking. My goal was to, I guess back then it was a goal. It was to become the best version of myself, and therefore to do that, I had to stop doing anything that wasn't productive, that wasn't, conductive to becoming my best self. So one of the things that I ask, because that's part of what I do, is I ask for guidance with pretty much everything I do. Not constantly, but I ask for guidance when I feel stuck. Mm-hmm. So there's one day where I asked guidance about my daughter because I kept on having confrontation with her, and I just didn't know how to stop it. And I could feel myself just, getting really mad and reacting right away. And so I guess what it started to do is, at first I would just lose it and then, feel, remorseful afterwards. After a little while, I would catch myself right before I'd lose it, and I would send her away and tell her, look, I'm just about to lose it. You need to give me some time. And I would come down. And after a while, I would spot where it started in my body, and before I even, got too excited about it. And then I would ask, questions. So why am I reacting? And sure enough, I would get the answer. I would get an answer just in my head. Just get an answer. And I thought, oh, okay, well. And then I would work on that. So it's becoming it's like having, in the cartoons when you have the angel and the demon on both shoulders. Mm-hmm. Well, I think for the longest time I had a whole bunch of flock of demons just floating, just free flowing around my head the whole time and just feeding me stuff all the time. And I think after a while they settled down on the shoulder a little bit. And after a while then they just kept quiet. They don't run the show anymore. And the way that the guidance is helping me is that it's showing me what is in line with my values and my intentions for my life. And it's showing me examples here and there. And when I don't get it, it just throws a confrontation in the way that forces me to acknowledge what it is that I'm not doing properly, or what it is that I'm doing that is counterproductive to what I set myself to do. So I guess it's a balance between paying attention to the signs, or to, it can be subtle. Sometimes it's not subtle at all. And just paying attention and kind of acting on it. And the more you do that, the more it becomes integrated in just your daily living. You don't think about it anymore. It's just a part of how you behave.
I hear when you say all those words, faith and patience, which is very opposite of our natural tendency, which is to try to gain control.
Yeah, control is a big thing, and it's something that I deal with every day. Everybody does. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, control is not easy to let go of. I think it's just because it's scary. It's I've had to rely on myself for years, and I'm coming on top. I'm doing well, but at the same time, letting go of control is letting go of a sense of certainty. Well, I do what I know what I have now, but I don't necessarily know what I would get if I let go of control. So it's a little bit scary, but at the same time, it's necessary, because if you don't let go of the control, then you're holding on to what is, but you have no idea what's coming. What's around the bend could be a million times better. So if you don't let go, how are you going to get there?
Mm.
So it's a bit of a tug of war sometimes. Sometimes I just let it take me where it wants to, and sometimes I just plant my feet and say, nope, not this week. This week I'm just doing what I'm doing, and that's it. I'm not following. It's a fine line between following the lead and choosing not to, really. But ultimately, ultimately to grow, you have to let go of some kind of control. Some of it has to give, otherwise there's no growth.
Right. Did you ever notice while you were building your inner practice with the divine, did you ever notice that it was hard to let go of control?
It's always hard. It's always hard. There's no instances when it's easy, really. It is hard because I had this image once in my head when I was struggling to understand why it was so difficult. There was this one time I was walking downtown, and there was some homeless kids that were on the side of the road, and they were just asking for food and whatever. And I thought, I don't have any money right now, but I'm going shopping, so okay, just gonna get them something. So I went to the store and I bought them a gift card, because I thought, and that's the controlling part, right? I thought, well, I'm not gonna give them money because they might go get drugs, and then I don't want them to do drugs, and so I thought, well, fine, so just get them a gift card. So I just give them a gift card, and when I walked away, I was expecting to feel, proud of myself or elated or something positive, and I didn't. I felt like crap, actually. I just felt really bad, and I thought, well, what's wrong with me? Like, I just give, like a decent amount of money to some kids. They're going to be able to eat for a little while. Why don't I feel good about myself?
Mm.
And that answer came like a few days later, and the image that I had was a wall, like a brick wall. Mm. And that brick wall it could be your ego, it's that big fortress that protects you, but it has, each of the bricks don't have to be pretty. They, some of them they're all the ideas that you have about your life, about the world you live in, about yourself, about everything. And every time you do something that contradicts this specific, one of the bricks of the wall, you kind of knock it off the wall, and then there's that hole. So what I realized is that there was a part of me that believed that maybe I was not capable of being generous and being, giving without a second thought. And I mean, which is true, because I had the second thought. I couldn't just give them, $30, $40. I had to buy the gift card because I had to be controlling to a certain degree. And I realized that that's the struggle. The struggle is, the control that we have over everything. It's not so much us trying to be in control of our life, but it's the entire structure, or our ego structure it's there to help us make sense of the world. So in a sense, it is just one big wall. I mean, the ego is a big control freak. It's there to help us, to help us stay safe in a way, right? And I don't think it's the bad guy, but I do think it's really opinionated, and I do think that it's holding on really tightly to all its beliefs, because all the beliefs, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, or Jenga. You take one little piece off, and the whole thing might collapse. Mm-hmm. So it's scared. It's scared every time you take a brick away. And I found the only way to make that work is to replace it right away with something else. To replace it with another, another brick, with a pretty, a pretty brick. Just put something else in there, just so that the support doesn't completely fall apart. deconstructing doesn't work unless you build at the same time. So it's a really thin line between removing the pieces that don't serve you anymore, but putting back something else in its place that's going to make it so that the structure doesn't collapse. Because the whole ecosystem is not bad. I mean, there's some things that are pretty good and that needs to stay there. It's only the things that don't serve you that need to, be cleaned away, kind of idea. But they still have to be replaced with something to keep the whole structure in place. So this dance, quote unquote, with the divine is not an easy one. It's challenging. It's rewarding beyond belief, but it's challenging beyond belief too. There are some weeks where I just need a break. I just have to take it easy and spend time just grounding, and because it depends. There are times where some of the bricks you knock off the wall are big ones, and so you kind of the whole structure is like teetering for a little while until you ground it again, and then it's good. But it's not easy, but I believe it's necessary, because that's the only way. I really believe it's the only way to reach your full potential, is if you're willing to pay attention and act upon the guidance that you get from higher up. Because otherwise you stay stuck in your little constricted world, and you don't get the chance to work to your full potentials, because fear keeps us pinned down. And the divine or spirit or the universe or the energy around us, call it whatever you want, that's the fuel for our full potential. But you gotta get it. You have to allow it to get in, and you have to be willing to face your fear a little bit at a time.
When you say that, I hear the word trust.
Yeah, trust is a big one, and perseverance. I think you have to be brave too, because a lot of the time, some of the things you have to face are not pretty. But trust, I think, after a period of time, trust becomes implicit, because what you realize is that it never throws at you something you can't handle. You always can handle what it throws at you. I've never been shown things or thrown around enough that I'm on the edge of breaking down. It's always within my capability to keep it together. I know that it's the way the subconscious work. If you study there's different psychologists that talk about that too, and different psychology school, and that say the same thing. The subconscious only lets go of when it's ready. So you don't put yourself in any danger per se. You know what I mean? Your sanity is not in danger, but your sense of self gets rocked pretty hard sometimes. I mean, because we're attached to the we're not only attached to the good bits. We're attached to everything. We attach to our stories, or the bad stuff that happened to us. The victim things that we cling to. All of it. We just attach to all of it. And there's times where when the bit that needs healing is a traumatic one, then sometimes it's great because you feel like you have a great weight lifted off your shoulder. But when that one bit that you need to let go of is something that you're attached to, what happens when it's something that you like about yourself, that all of a sudden you realize, oh, well, that's not quite as relevant as I thought it was. And these are the instances where it kind of sucks, because you're like, well, but I like that one. I don't want to let go. Yeah. But the truth is, if it's part of your growth process, then it's like anything else. You have to let it go to grow. So these are the times that can be challenging. And these are the times where it's important to have a good a good structure around you. So, for example, in the way that I work, I always do. It's a structured growth process. I've found what works for me, and I always work like that. I do my meditation in the morning. That's to connect me, to keep me in contact. Let's say with energies around, or the divine, what you want to call it. But I study a lot. the studies that I do are different. There's different form of it. There's the new concepts that I'm going to study to just open and broaden my mind. There are the things that I study that are there to compensate the things that I don't know. For example, because my childhood was a bit hectic and I didn't have a good relationship with my mom, in order to be a good parent, these are skills that I have to learn, because I had to learn that because I had no idea how to do it. Or for example, if I find that my relationship with my mom is a problem, then I will pick up a book that would maybe try to explain to me why it is that I feel that way. So psychologically book, or I will pick up a history book that's going to give me some perspective, so that just to, I don't know, if I'm challenged with something in my daily life, I will ask for guidance. What can I do to help with it. So but at the same time too, the third part of the practice is to make sure that I always nurture myself and always do things that nurture me as a person. The things that bring me joy, the things that nurture my soul, and I practice those every day too. And these are the light bricks. These are the ones that I use to plug in the hole. And they're important, because if you just work on deconstructing and you're not constructing at the same time, then the whole structure gets weaker, and there's a big chance for the falling apart, and that's when your mind just snaps a little bit. So you gotta be careful with that. But yeah.
Earlier, just a bit ago, you were talking about when you feel like you're stuck and you go and you ask the universe for help. Mm-hmm. How do you feel being that vulnerable, that open?
It's not vulnerable anymore.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it was the first time, but it's like when you have a really good friend and you the first time you have to say something that's hard, and then you feel really vulnerable because you don't know how they're going to take it. But they take it well, and they give you good advice. So the second time you're a little bit apprehensive, but it's not that bad. And and after you've done it 100 times, then you don't even think about it anymore. You just ask, what's the best thing to do? And because you're getting good advice, right? So the first time it's scary because you don't even know if you're going to get an answer. But
right.
Then you get your answer, you act on it, and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad. And so you keep on doing it. And I've been doing it for almost 5 years now, so it's becoming a reflex. So I don't think on it anymore. I just, if I'm stuck, I ask for advice, I get an answer. Sometimes it's not what I want. Most of the time it's not what I expect. But it gets me going. It gets me, it keeps pushing me. And it keeps pushing me in the direction that I've chose. That's the thing too, right? I chose the direction by setting the intention. So I'm getting what I asked, really.
Just not in the way you wanted it.
Well, it's never in the way you want to, because we have these fantasies that we make about all the time about what we want and what would be best for us. But the truth is, we have no idea what would be best for us. You might set, for example, if I set my intention to being the best version of myself, obviously I don't know what that's going to look like, since I'm not it. I don't know what my potentials are. I mean, I know some of my potentials, but do I know who I would be if I was like, the best, greatest version of myself? How I could help people? Or I have no idea. I'm starting to get a bit of a clearer picture, but that's it. I get one puzzle piece at a time. I don't see the whole picture, and I really don't know how to get there. Like it's one step at a time. It really is one day at a time, one moment at a time. Following my guidance and being faithful to the practice. And really when you do this work, what you're learning how to do, it's not so much to be vulnerable and trust, and the guidance is in you. It's you. It's your the higher version of yourself. What you're learning to do is to trust yourself, really. Listen to yourself, to that higher part of yourself that knows better. and acting up on that instead of listening to the other side, the little kid scared part that's just not quite sure how to or what it wants, and that's it. That the relationship that you build over time it's a relationship that takes place inside of you. And somehow, the universe kind of unfolds to show you everything you need to get there. That's it. I mean, I think the dance is just trusting who we are, and paying attention to the instant feedback the universe gives us to help us get us there. Because I really think that all it wants for us is to be that best version of ourselves so that we can be of service, can help other people, and we can make the place, the world a better place.
Right.
So that's it. And as I think we have a really hard time trusting ourselves with anything. And part of this work is just that, to learn how to really deeply love that inner part of ourselves, trust it, and work with it, and see where it takes you. So vulnerability is not necessarily being vulnerable. It's trusting. Yes, you have to be trusting, and you have to be brave. You definitely have to be brave, because there are times where you just want to throw the towel and say, you know what, that's it. Today I'm not doing a thing. I'm just going to watch Netflix all day, and I'll be curling up on my bed under my blanket with a big mug of cocoa, and leave me alone.
I've done that.
Yeah, and I do that regularly too. There are times where I just need to pause for a few days or whatever it takes, and just regroup, because it does take a lot of energy to do that. It does. But the rewards around you, though, are enormous. Just watching my children grow up into wonderful little beings, that's quite cool. And and for me, I realized this week too that, because I have my aha moments all the time. And sometimes that's the overwhelming part, because I keep on asking, okay, just teach me already.
Yeah.
And once in a while, I get the big aha moments, but the ones that are not pretty, the one that hit you upside the head, you're like, okay, well, teach me nicely, please. Just, it doesn't have to hurt.
Be kind, yeah.
Can you be nice?
Yeah.
So,
well, what I learned about that was, no, sometimes, for me, it's God. Sometimes God can't be kind. Sometimes it has to be pain in order to have him live inside your heart, not just on your heart. Yeah, so he's got to be able to find a way to break your heart open so that he can crawl inside.
And you know what? I agree, but what I believe is that it's already inside. I believe that it's an inside-out exercise, not an outside-in. I believe, God is already inside your heart, but I believe that it's the shell that we grow around your heart that prevents it from fully engaging with everything that it has to show us. And the pain is when a brick falls. The pain is when one of your certainty is knocked off the wall, and that the parts that hurts. Because we need the certainty. That's part of the ego structure. We need it because it keeps us safe. So knocking it down just hurt like hell. And I don't think it's, I don't think it's God being, giving us hard love. I think it's us. It's just us. Just all that protective barrier that we built around us. It's letting it down. That's the pain. That's not, the teaching is there to, once you pass the pain, you realize that the teaching is never painful. Is the attachment to the opposite idea that was painful, not the teachings. The teachings is always fine. It's always there to help. It's always beautiful. But the attachment that you have to, to your idea of the truth, that's the bit that hurts to let go of. And, and that's the practice. The practice is to realize we don't know better. And
right there is a great moment before we end our session. What have you learned as your personal truth?
We're never done. There's always something. there's always a deeper truth. The truth is multifaceted, and that's one of the things that I love about it, about this work. There's not one truth. There is, well, I guess there's a universal truth, but a million different ways to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest part of this work is to open our heart to the divine, or let the divine, work its magic on us from the inside out, so that we can be acquainted with the million truths and see them for what they are, just a version of the same truth. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really helpful. That's really helpful, because once you realize that everything is a version of the same truth, then a lot of our own misconception, a lot of our own judgment, and it just falls away. It just goes away all of a sudden. All of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, well, it's just, that's his truth. That's fine. Doesn't have to, bug me in any way, shape, or form. That's the same truth, just his. The way he sees it, she sees it. And that's part of the work that makes it all worthwhile, really, because of that sense of peace and belonging that it brings. And yeah, that's it. We're never done.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. This was a beautiful, beautiful interview.
Well, thank you.
I think you've answered every question I had.
Well, that's great. I'm happy.
Well, thank you very much, Sandrine, and we will talk again.
Okay. Well, Lisa, you have a wonderful week.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, and we'll talk again in a couple of weeks or so.
Okay.
Okay. Take care, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.